So hello, welcome everybody, all of you joining us today for this webinar on basic psychosocial skills, and all of you who might be watching later on these quickly educational videos about BPS, basic psychosocial skills. We're really happy to have this opportunity to show you what this guide consists on and how can it be useful to your work. My name is Carmen Valle, and I am the Senior MHPSS Advisor for the MHPSS Collaborative, which is hosted by Save the Children. And with me today, I have Jen and Brian, who work for WHO, and I'm just going to very quickly introduce themselves too.
Hi everybody, so I'm Jen Hall. I'm a technical officer in mental health working at the World Health Organization.
Hello everyone, I'm Brian Ochieng, also a technical officer for mental health and substance abuse with WHO.
Excellent. So the three of us are going to guide you through the structure of the basic psychosocial skill, just give a little bit of an outlook on how it does it look and how can you use it. And strongly recommend that you use these videos with the guide. So you read it and you use it actively, you learn it, but you can use these videos to have a little bit of an idea on how it works. You can see the guide in my screen, and I'm going to be just scrolling through it and showing you different parts of it. But before I do that, I just wanted to start by sharing why did we develop this guide. It was developed for COVID-19, but it comes from this idea that we know from long ago that every humanitarian crisis, every big crisis that affects human beings, it's really important that they take into consideration mental health and psychosocial support aspects. We know now since long ago that a lot of people can do a lot to help others in humanitarian crises and in general crises. So you don't have to be a mental health expert to be able of helping others feel better when something really negative happens. And even since we started doing psychological first aid many years ago, we've learned that everybody can contribute. Because COVID is so big and is so worldwide and is affecting so many people and it's been so difficult for many of us to cope with, we decided to do something that is beyond psychological first aid, that explains a bit more what can you do. It gives some more tips, some more skills that people can use as you do any of the work that you're doing. It's not for you to become a person who only does mental health and psychosocial support, but it's for anybody doing their response. And I would like to go down to this really pretty picture in the guide that shows that this guide indeed is for anybody, from health professionals to shop attendants to pharmaceutical staff, everybody who's going to be interacted on a daily basis with those affected by COVID-19, which, as we know, is very difficult to deal with. And it might mean that you come across people who are in distress, or maybe you are in distress yourself. And actually, that's something that we wanted to start asking everybody today in the webinar. We all feel that maybe this has been a very intense experience going through COVID and responding to COVID. So we've shared at the beginning of the webinar our Mentimeter. And we would like to go now to the first question in the Mentimeter and ask our participants this question: how much has COVID-19 impacted your well-being? Okay, some extent, large extent. We have some affection, definitely. I don't think I've asked this question thus far and I've heard, no, not at all from anybody. I think definitely we can all feel the impact of COVID-19 and how we feel in general, in how up or down we feel and how tired we are. And the second question I wanted to ask is, all of you are working in different degrees with people during this pandemic. To what extent do you feel that COVID-19 has impacted the mental health and well-being of those you are working with, whether it's your clients or your patients or beneficiaries of any sort that you come across every day? Wow, that's much more clear. So some of us find it easier maybe to cope ourselves in the previous question, but definitely the people we work with we can sense, we can feel that they are having a difficult time due to this COVID-19 pandemic. Thank you for those answers. Precisely because that's the reality. That's what we face every day. We are going to have to continue working very hard to provide services of diverse nature to a population that is now for many months affected by the pandemic. So as we could see in your answers, this is having an impact in them. And I really like these two sentences at the beginning of the guide. First, this one in bold letters: you can make a difference to the well-being of people through how you interact and communicate during COVID-19 response. And the last one about what you would learn, it says basic psychosocial skills are at the core of helping others to feel better. In this guide, you will learn how to use these skills to look after yourself and how to help others feel supported throughout your interactions. So this is the purpose of this guide, and this is what we want to present to you today, because we really believe in anything you do. If you apply these skills, if you apply these things that you can learn in the guide, you can really contribute to those around you feeling better, but also your own well-being. And talking about your own well-being, that's precisely the beginning of the guide. These basic psychosocial skills is very much on purpose, starting on your own well-being, how to take care of yourself. The reason is set right here at the beginning. There is no response without you. You have to take care of yourself because a lot depends on it. And you being affected, as you were saying in your first response, to one degree or another, you are experiencing yourself stress every day. So taking care of yourself is the number one aspect. This module 1 that I'm going to show you is going to help you through some first information about stress and how it affects you, and also some tips on how to take care of you. It's going to help you covering this very essential part of your daily work. This first module covers from page 6 to page 8, and is going to start with this very simple information about things that you already know. How is this impacting every day? How much work you have at the moment, how busy everything else. And together with it, it has a little bit of information here on the right side on how can you know that you're starting to actually experience stress? What are the kind of symptoms that you can identify? Like, oof, I'm having very regular headaches, I'm in a very low mood, or I'm actually like very sad every day, or I'm very fearful. So you can identify which kind of symptoms might indicate that you are maybe taking too much on your shoulders and you need to start taking care of yourself. This guide, after showing you this basic information about stress, is really great in giving you very specific tips and advice on taking care of yourself. You don't have to wait to feel stressed to use these tips. Quite the opposite. If you use these tips every day, you're going to minimize the risk to end up being affected very severely. So in this second page, you can just go through it and read a number of very easy, simple to follow advice for your daily life. From how would you manage information? We have news coming all day long on COVID, how many cases are worldwide, what is happening. It can be very stressful, but we also need to be informed. So where do you find your balance? And also, what can you do in terms of sleeping well, taking care of your exercise, trying to eat healthy and at the right times. And it continues to give advice throughout it. For example, I find very important that we are reminded that we tend to drink a lot of coffee and smoke. If we are a smoker, we smoke even more when we are working in very stressful situations. So it's very good information on why this is not necessarily the most useful thing for you. And then it gives you some of the tips. If you go through this page, you'll notice there are a number of annexes that we're going to check in a minute. So these 10 very simple steps are something that you can do daily to, first of all, as we were saying, take care of yourself before you use the rest of the guide to support others. My two very important pieces about this first module. The first one is that you go all the way down to the end of the guide. I'm just going to quickly scroll down. Sorry, because I know it's a bit annoying to see all of these pages moving in front of you, but I'm just going to show you how at the end of the guide, you have a number of annexes. And these are very important to read with your first module. The first one is about managers and what they can do to support their staff and contribute to their stress not being that high. That one is obviously for you to share with your managers, or for you to read very carefully if you are a manager yourself, and it has some further resources. And then the next of the annexes mentioned in module 1 are really useful, and I would really recommend that you use them. You don't have to use this a specific format. You could do it in a piece of paper that you like, but really is when we put them in as an annex in itself, is because it's really important that you, for example, establish your own routines and you write what are you going to do each day and try to stick to it as much as possible. That you use your circles of control, for example, to try to sit down and analyze, okay, what is it that I can really control? And what are the things that are completely outside of my control? And therefore, I should remember that and not get very nervous about not being able of doing everything. Then you have, for example, specific techniques that you can use, literally just reading through this script to learn how to find some relaxation in your body through one specific technique. So all of these annexes are very important. And I would recommend for this first module that you read it together with the annexes and you try to do the exercise to actually fill them all in. And I think that's the overview of the first module. Are there any questions or any comments?
Yes, this is Hibin.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi, Hibin.
Hi, Carmen. Thank you very much. This looks very helpful. Thanks for the tips and the annexes. I love them. They can be scratched on a paper, as you said. We don't need printers. But in the middle of too much work, how can we do this?
You feel that you might not have even the time to take care of yourself. Yeah. I think this is how we all feel, and this is why this is so central of this guide. We really wanted to put it at the beginning, and I will really, if you don't mind, I really want to go up again. Sorry for the scrolling up again, but I really want to show you something that I think is important at the beginning of module 1. You can read here, looking after yourself and your team while working in COVID-19 is not a luxury, it's a responsibility. And I think it helps me because I can have this feeling that I need to do it all. The situation is so critical at the moment that I need to stay up. I need to keep on working. I need to give it 100% because there's people needing me. And then I need to read it in this way. It's my responsibility. If I don't take care of myself, the possibilities that I do harm, I make a mistake, I do something wrong, are higher. So if I really want to be somebody who helps the most in this pandemic, I really need to make sure that I'm functioning well, that I'm rested, that I'm okay, that I'm not going to make mistakes. So I can really connect with that feeling. It's too much to do. How can I find time to meditate? But you have to turn it around. People you help need you to be well. So 1 hour maybe in your day can make a massive difference in how they receive your help.
Yeah, thank you.
Very welcome. Is there any other question? Yes, Abel.
Yes, me, Abel. Hi, Carmen. Thank you very much. Echoing on what Hibin just said, we all seem to be in the same working mode these days. It is often seen as normal or even prized to work too many hours and not taking time for yourself. So I was wondering, are there any recommendations around the organizational culture about this topic?
Thank you for that question. I think it's very important one. And I only mentioned it briefly, but now that you asked me this question, I'm going to go back to that recommendation. You have it here at the bottom of your recommendation, that you go and read Annex A. And I'm not going to scroll all the way down again, but that annex is very important. You're right. When we all are so stressed and we all work so much, it tends to be it's an issue of organizational culture, if you like. It's how we work, is what we do, and it's, as you're saying, it's seen as very normal. Like the person who don't work those many hours seems to be the weird one. So to solve that issue, I think there are 3 key steps. One of them is that as many individuals as possible in your organization read the basic psychosocial skill guide and try to interiorize, work with it and learn it. Because when everybody learns the same concept, that is a matter of you being well so others can be well, when you put it in the responsibility of the organization, is easier, and you can share that when others are trained as well in BPS. The other one is lead with example. Sometimes we feel that nobody can take a break, everybody's in the same mode, until we see somebody that even has a more important role than us, and we see them taking a break, and you feel that's good. I can see why that's important. So that would be really important. And the third one is that you share with your managers this Annex A. It has a lot of resources and good advice, and it's very important because it doesn't matter. This is a very good first module, but it doesn't matter how hard you try to take care of yourself. There's always an element that has to be organizational. There's an element of care that has to be facilitated by your managers and the organization. So I would really recommend that you share this with them.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Are there any other questions on this module? It doesn't seem so. So I'm just going to introduce module 2. The great expert on module 2 is my colleague Jen, so I'm going to let her explain the second part, but I'm just going to introduce this second module of the guide. Is about supportive communication, how to communicate in a way that enables your job actually, and it makes it easier for those you work with to pay attention to you, to understand what you're saying, and even to have a more positive reaction to whichever task you have to do with them. So I really find it a very important module. It always fascinates me how much you can do just with communication, with a tone of voice, with a face that is kind instead of concern, with how you use your words. And I was wondering if, for me, the key, what I try to remind myself when I think about communication, I try to think about this one person that I know. And when I talk to her, I immediately feel so calm and so well listened. And I feel that she's really with me and I can tell her everything. It kind of encouraged me to talk. I wonder if there's somebody that you know that you can think, yeah, I know that kind of person that I really like to talk to because I feel listened. And if you can share maybe in the chat some of the things that they do, or even if you want to unmute yourself and share, what do they do that makes you actually feel that way? They are attentive and calm, yes, and they have good eye contact. That's another good one. Any other thing? Warm and friendly, yes, definitely. They are active listeners, says Ernest. Right, so you know this module. You already know what needs to be done to listen well. Precisely these things that you notice in the people who are good listeners, in your opinion. Abel is saying they make me feel heard. This is precisely the kind of thing that this module is going to help you going through. So at the beginning of the module, what you have is just a very simple do's and don'ts, and many of those you were mentioning. For example, keep an open, relaxed posture versus being like crossing your arms or showing that you're not really that engaged. Looking at the person, as you were mentioning, trying not to look distracted and looking at your phone or looking through the person more than to the person. What can you do to introduce yourself, say your name, be clear, maintain a calm voice? So when you put together these do's and don'ts, this is the beginning of a very good communication. This first page just shows you also a very nice case study from David that you can read to have an idea of how one individual can use these techniques. So this is how the first module is. This is how the second module starts. And now I'm going to pass to my colleague Jen, who's going to continue guiding you through a little bit more of communication. Thank you for listening.